What if I told you that the secret to performing under pressure isn't about eliminating fear, but about training so intensely that excellence becomes automatic? Today we're diving into the mind of one of the greatest performers in sports history, someone who revolutionized an entire game through preparation, mindset, and an unshakable belief in process over outcome. This isn't just another sports story. This is a blueprint for anyone who's ever choked under pressure, felt unprepared when opportunity knocked, or wondered how elite performers consistently deliver when it matters most. If you've ever felt your heart racing before a big presentation, your mind going blank during an important conversation, or your confidence crumbling when stakes are high, then these next 45 minutes contain the exact strategies used at the highest levels of competition. The truth is, peak performance isn't about natural talent. It's not about being fearless or having some magical confidence gene. It's about developing systems, specific, measurable, repeatable systems that make excellence inevitable. We're going to explore the psychology of preparation, the art of transforming pressure into fuel, and the daily habits that separate good performers from legendary ones. You'll discover why the greatest shooter in basketball history practices shots he'll never take in games, how to build what scientists call embodied confidence, and why the most successful people actually seek out pressure situations. This journey will take you inside championship locker rooms, behind the scenes of record-breaking performances, and into the mind of someone who transformed perceived weaknesses into unstoppable strengths. Whether you're an entrepreneur preparing for investor meetings, a student facing crucial exams, or anyone who wants to perform at their peak when it matters most, these principles have been battle-tested in the most pressure-filled environments on Earth. The strategies you're about to learn have created for championships, broken countless records, and influenced millions of people worldwide. But more importantly, they're practical, actionable, and adaptable to whatever arena you compete in. Your transformation from someone who survives pressure to someone who thrives under it starts right now. Chapter 1: The Foundation: Why Most People Fail Under Pressure. Picture this. You're standing in front of 20,000 screaming fans, millions watching on television, with everything you've worked for hanging on your neck. I'm ready to show what I've prepared. Instead of everyone will judge me. This is my opportunity to demonstrate excellence. Practical technique number 2. Use pressure breathing, not relaxation breathing. When you feel intensity building, breathe in patterns that enhance alertness rather than trying to calm down. Remember, 4 in, hold, 4 out, 4. This maintains the energy while giving you control. Practical technique number 3. Visualize success under pressure, not success in calm conditions. Most people visualize perfect scenarios. Elite performers visualize succeeding despite challenges, hostile environments, things going wrong, having to overcome obstacles. The transformation happens when you stop seeing pressure as something to overcome and start seeing it as something to harness. When you understand that intensity is actually your nervous system preparing you for peak performance, everything changes. Your action step for the next week. Whenever you feel pressure or nervousness before any performance situation, practice the reframe. Tell yourself this intensity means I'm ready for something important, and use the breathing technique. Notice how this changes both your experience and your actual performance. The goal isn't to eliminate pressure, it's to become someone who performs better under pressure than without it. Chapter 3: Smart Opportunity. Recognition: when to shoot your shot here. a truth that separates good performers from great ones. Knowing when not to act is just as important as knowing when to act. Most people either take every opportunity that comes their way or wait for perfect conditions that never arrive. Elite performers have developed sophisticated filters for recognizing when their preparation meets the right moment. Think about this scenario. You're in the zone. Everything feels right, but the situation isn't optimal. Do you force it anyway? Or consider this. Conditions are perfect, but you haven't done enough preparation. Do you go for it, hoping for the best? These decisions separate those who occasionally succeed from those who consistently excel. The breakthrough insight is understanding the difference between a good opportunity and the right opportunity. A good opportunity might have favorable external conditions. The right opportunity is when your internal preparation aligns with external circumstances to create the highest probability of success. Let me illustrate this with a perfect example. During a legendary performance where 11 three-pointers were made in one game, breaking records and stunning fans worldwide, there were actually several shots that weren't taken earlier in the game. Why would someone pass up open shots when they're known for shooting from anywhere? Because elite performers understand context, timing, and rhythm. Sometimes the mathematically good shot isn't the strategically right shot. Maybe teammates need touches to stay engaged. Maybe the defense isn't set up properly yet. Maybe the rhythm hasn't been established. The ability to recognize these nuances is what separates good decision-making from great decision-making. This principle applies everywhere in life. Think about career opportunities. Just because a job offer comes your way doesn't mean it's the right move. Just because you're qualified doesn't mean the timing is optimal. Let me give you a practical framework you can use immediately. Before any significant opportunity or decision, ask yourself 3 questions. First, have I prepared thoroughly enough to excel, not just succeed? Second, does this align with my most important goals, or is it a distraction? Third, when I imagine myself 5 years from now, will I regret not taking this opportunity? The magic happens when you get comfortable with strategic patience. Elite performers understand that waiting for the right opportunity often creates better results than forcing mediocre opportunities. This isn't procrastination, it's strategic timing. There's also the concept of range expansion within opportunity recognition. Sometimes the right opportunity is one that stretches your capabilities slightly beyond your current comfort zone. The key is distinguishing between stretch opportunities that grow you and opportunities that are simply beyond your current preparation level. Your relationship with opportunity changes when you realize you don't have to take every chance that comes your way. In fact, the ability to pass up good opportunities creates space and energy for great opportunities. This is counterintuitive for most people, who fear that saying no to anything means missing out. Your action step for the next 30 days, before saying yes to any significant opportunity or commitment, pause and evaluate it against the 3 filters: preparation level, strategic alignment, and long-term significance. Notice how this changes both the quality of opportunities you pursue and your confidence in those decisions. Remember, elite performers aren't just good at seizing opportunities, they're exceptional at recognizing which opportunities deserve their best efforts. Chapter 4. Expanding your range, breaking through artificial limits. If everything you think you know about your limits is wrong, what if the boundaries you've accepted about what's possible are actually just the edges of your current comfort zone, not the limits of your actual capability? Most people operate within invisible boundaries. They shoot from distances they feel comfortable with, take on challenges that feel manageable, and pursue goals that seem reasonable. But elite performers have discovered something revolutionary. Systematically expanding your range doesn't just improve your performance, it changes how others perceive what's possible. Here's the mind-bending part. When you consistently perform beyond established boundaries, you create what we can call gravitational influence. People start adjusting their strategies and expectations based on your expanded capabilities. Your range expansion forces entire systems to evolve. Let me paint you a picture of. Here's the systematic approach to range expansion. First, identify your current comfortable range in any skill. Then, dedicate 10 to 15% of your practice time to working beyond that range. The key is maintaining your fundamentals while gradually pushing boundaries. For example, if you're comfortable giving presentations to groups of 20 people, start practicing techniques for groups of 100. If you normally prepare 1 week in advance for important meetings, experiment with preparation systems that work with just 2 days' notice. If you're confident in your field's standard practices, study approaches from completely different industries. The breakthrough happens when you realize that most limits are psychological, not physical. Your brain is constantly making calculations about what's possible based on past experience. But when you systematically expose yourself to expanded ranges, you literally rewire those calculations. There's also something called the 10% rule that elite performers use. They practice at a level about 10% beyond what they need to perform. This creates a buffer zone that makes normal performance feel almost easy by comparison. When game time pressure hits, you're operating within your expanded practice range rather than at the edge of your capabilities. But here's the crucial point. Range expansion must be systematic, not random. You can't just attempt harder things and hope for the best. You need to maintain your foundational skills while gradually extending into new territories. Think of it like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you can add additional floors. The emotional component is equally important. Range expansion requires getting comfortable with higher failure rates during practice. Most people avoid this because failure feels bad. But elite performers reframe practice failures as data collection. Each failure teaches you something about the boundaries of what's currently possible. Here's a practical framework you can implement immediately. Choose one skill where you want to expand your range. Spend 80% of your practice time maintaining and refining your current capabilities. Spend 20% of your practice time working beyond your current comfort zone. Track both your failures and successes in the expanded range. The transformation happens gradually, then suddenly. For months, your expanded range attempts might fail more often than they succeed. Then, almost overnight, your capability catches up to your ambition. What seemed impossible becomes merely difficult. What seemed difficult becomes routine. The strategic implications are profound. When you're known for capabilities that others consider impossible, entire competitive landscapes shift around you. People start planning for what you might do, not just what you've already done, your action step. Identify one area where you want to expand your range. For the next 30 days, dedicate 15 minutes daily to practicing beyond your current comfort zone while maintaining your foundational skills. Track your progress and notice how this expansion affects your confidence in normal applications of that skill. Remember, your current limits are often just the boundaries of your current practice, not the limits of your actual potential. Chapter 5. Elevating Others, the Multiplier Effect of Excellency. A truth that will revolutionize how you think about success. Individual excellence means nothing if it doesn't make others better. The highest levels of achievement happen when your preparation and performance creates opportunities for everyone around you to excel. Most people think of excellence as a zero-sum game. If I'm successful, there's less success available for others. Elite performers understand the opposite is true. When you operate at such a high level that it elevates others, you create what researchers call positive contagion excellence that spreads throughout entire systems. The breakthrough insight is understanding that visible preparation creates invisible inspiration. When people see you consistently operating at championship levels, not just in performance, but in preparation, professionalism, and commitment, it naturally raises their own standards without you saying a word. Let me illustrate this with a perfect example. Imagine arriving at practice 3 hours before anyone else, not to show off, but because that's what your preparation requires. Other players start arriving earlier too, not because anyone told them to, but because excellence creates its own gravity. You share your training methods openly instead of keeping them secret. You celebrate teammates' improvements as enthusiastically as your own achievements. You maintain the same preparation standards, whether you're playing with superstars or rookies. This creates what psychologists call achievement culture, shared standards that make everyone better. The results are measurable. Teammates start setting personal records. The entire team's performance statistics improve, and what was once considered impossible becomes the new baseline. Your individual excellence becomes a catalyst for collective excellence. This principle applies everywhere. In business, when you're the person who over-prepares for every meeting, responds to emails with thoughtful detail, and consistently delivers beyond expectations, you don't just improve your own performance, you reset organizational standards. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think leadership requires telling others what to do. Elite leadership happens when your standards are so consistently high that others naturally elevate their own performance to match. This is leadership through demonstration, not domination. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Humans have mirror neurons that cause us to unconsciously mimic the behaviors we observe regularly. When you consistently operate at elite levels, people around you start adopting those behaviors automatically. You literally change their neurological patterns through consistent example. But there's a crucial distinction here. This isn't about showing off or making others feel inadequate. It's about creating what we can call aspiration without intimidation. Your excellence should inspire others to reach higher, not make them feel hopeless about their own potential. The practical approach involves 3 key elements. First, make your preparation visible but not boastful. Let others see your work ethic through your actions, not your words. Second, actively support others' improvement efforts. Share knowledge, celebrate progress, and create opportunities for others to succeed. Third, maintain consistent standards, regardless of who you're working with. Here's a real-world example of how this works. You start a habit of sending detailed, thoughtful responses to all team communications. Initially, others might send quick, low-thought replies. But over time, without anyone explicitly raising standards, team communications improve across the board. People start putting more thought into their messages, meetings become more productive, and overall team performance improves. The multiplier effect happens when your excellence creates conditions for others to excel. This isn't just about being a good teammate or colleague. It's about understanding that sustainable excellence requires building systems and cultures, not just individual performance. There's also something called confidence contagion that elite performers create. When you operate with earned confidence, confidence based on thorough preparation rather than empty, positive thinking, others start developing similar confidence in their own capabilities. Your preparation-based confidence becomes permission for others to prepare more thoroughly and perform more boldly. The emotional component is crucial. You have to genuinely want others to succeed, not just tolerate their success. This requires what psychologists call abundance mentality, the understanding that others' success enhances. Chapter 6: Turning Setbacks into Stepping Stones. What if I told you that your biggest failures contain the exact information you need for your greatest successes? What if setbacks aren't obstacles to excellence, but actually curriculum for it? Most people treat failure as evidence that they're not capable of elite performance. They see setbacks as confirmation that they should lower their expectations or choose safer paths. But elite performers have developed a radically different relationship with failure. They see it as the fastest path to improvement. Here's the revolutionary insight. Failure reveals preparation gaps that success often hides. When everything goes well, you can't identify what needs improvement. But when things go wrong, you get precise data about where your systems, preparation, or mindset need to evolve. The breakthrough happens when you develop what we can call failure literacy, the ability to extract actionable insights from setbacks faster and more systematically than your competition. This becomes a competitive advantage because most people avoid analyzing their failures, while elite performers mine them for improvement data. Let me share a perfect example of this in action. In 2016, after leading a series 3-1 and then losing the championship, instead of dwelling on disappointment or making excuses, there was immediate systematic analysis. What specific situations revealed preparation gaps? Where did communication break down? What pressure scenarios needed more practice? The entire off-season was redesigned around addressing those exact weaknesses. Film study focused on late-game execution. Practice scenarios simulated high-pressure situations. Leadership skills were developed to handle adversity better. The failure became a curriculum for improvement. The results? The next year's championship run directly addressed every weakness the failure had revealed. Better late-game execution, improved pressure performance, and stronger leadership under adversity. The failure literally provided the blueprint for future success. This is how elite performers operate. They don't just bounce back from setbacks. They use setbacks to bounce forward to higher levels of performance. Each failure becomes a stepping stone to capabilities they wouldn't have developed otherwise. The psychology behind this is crucial. Most people's relationship with failure is emotional rather than analytical. They feel shame, disappointment, or discouragement, which prevents them from extracting the valuable data failure contains. Elite performers separate emotional processing from analytical processing. Here's the systematic approach. First, allow yourself to feel the disappointment. Don't skip the emotional component. It's part of being human. But then shift into analytical mode. Ask 3 specific questions. What did this failure reveal about my preparation? What specific skills or systems need improvement? What will I do differently next time? The key is specificity. General lessons like work harder or be more confident aren't useful. Specific lessons like practiced free throws when fatigued or develop better communication. Protocols under pressure can be immediately implemented. There's also something called antifragile thinking that elite performers develop. Instead of just recovering from setbacks, they actually get stronger because of them. Each failure increases their resilience, improves their preparation systems, and builds confidence that they can handle adversity. Think about this in your own life. What failure are you still avoiding analyzing because it's too painful? What setback contains information that could revolutionize your approach if you were willing to examine it systematically? The practical framework involves 3 phases: immediate response, systematic analysis, and targeted improvement. In the immediate response phase, acknowledge the disappointment without making it mean anything about your overall capability. In the systematic analysis phase, identify specific lessons and improvement opportunities. In the targeted improvement phase, redesign your preparation to address the gaps failure revealed. Here's where most people go wrong. They either dwell on failures without learning from them, or they try to move on without extracting the lessons. Both approaches waste the valuable information failure provides. Elite performers treat failure as expensive education. Since you've already paid the price, you might as well get the full value. The transformation happens when you start seeing patterns in your failures. Maybe you consistently struggle with preparation under time pressure. Maybe your performance drops when stakes are highest. Maybe you have communication breakdowns under stress. These patterns aren't character flaws, they're improvement opportunities. There's also the concept of productive paranoia that elite performers develop. They constantly ask themselves, where might I fail? What scenarios am I not prepared for? What weaknesses am I not seeing? This isn't negative thinking, it's preparation thinking that prevents failures before they happen. The emotional shift. Here's the breakthrough insight. Your mind rehearses scenarios constantly, whether you direct it or not. The question is whether those mental rehearsals are preparing you for success or programming you for failure. Elite performers take conscious control of this process through systematic mental training. The science behind this is remarkable. Neuroscientists have discovered that detailed mental rehearsal creates neural pathways identical to those formed through physical practice. When you vividly visualize successful performance, your brain literally can't distinguish between that and actual experience. You're building muscle memory for scenarios that haven't happened yet. But here's where most people get mental preparation wrong. They only visualize perfect scenarios. They imagine everything going smoothly, shots falling easily, presentations flowing perfectly. Elite performers visualize success, despite challenges, hostile environments, equipment failures, off days, and having to perform while not feeling their best. Let me paint you a picture of systematic mental training in action. Months before a championship series, there's detailed visualization of making clutch shots in hostile arenas, staying composed when calls don't go your way, and leading teammates through adversity. These aren't positive thinking exercises. They're specific mental rehearsals of likely scenarios. The mental preparation includes developing self-talk scripts for different situations. What will you tell yourself when shots aren't falling? How will you maintain focus when the crowd is hostile? What internal dialogue will keep you aggressive when stakes are highest? These scripts are practiced until they become automatic responses to pressure. There's also breathing pattern training designed not for relaxation, but for optimal performance states. Different situations require different mental states. Sometimes you need calm, focus. Sometimes explosive energy. Sometimes analytical clarity. Elite performers develop breathing techniques that can create each state on command. The transformation happens when your mental preparation becomes as systematic as your physical preparation. Just as you wouldn't show up to a championship without physical conditioning, you don't show up without mental conditioning. Here's the practical framework for mental training. First, identify the mental challenges specific to your field. Do you need to maintain focus for extended periods? Stay confident despite initial failures? Make quick decisions under time pressure? Perform while being watched and evaluated? Second, design specific mental exercises to address each challenge. For focus training, practice maintaining attention on chosen objects for increasing periods. For confidence under adversity, visualize performing successfully after initial mistakes. For decision-making under pressure, practice rapid-fire scenario analysis. Third, make mental training as regular as physical training. Most people do mental preparation only before big events. Elite performers train their minds daily, building mental fitness that peaks when needed most. The visualization component requires specific techniques to be effective. It's not enough to imagine success. You need to engage all senses, include realistic challenges, and rehearse your responses to various scenarios. The more detailed and challenging your mental rehearsals, the more prepared you'll be for actual performance. There's also something called emotional regulation training that elite performers use. This involves practicing your response to different emotional states: frustration, excitement, disappointment, pressure. Instead of hoping you'll handle emotions well, you rehearse specific strategies for each emotional challenge. The self-talk component is crucial but often misunderstood. Effective performance self-talk isn't just positive affirmations, it's specific, situation-appropriate internal dialogue that guides attention and behavior. I'm prepared for this. Trust my training and focus on process are more useful than generic positive statements. Mental training also includes attention control exercises. In high-pressure situations, your attention will be pulled in many directions: crowd noise, opponent behavior, internal anxiety, external expectations. Elite performers practice directing their attention exactly where it needs to be, regardless of distractions. The breathing techniques used in mental training are performance-specific, not just relaxation. Sometimes you need breathing patterns that increase alertness and energy. Sometimes you need patterns that enhance focus and clarity. Learning to create different mental states through breath control is like having an internal performance-enhancing system. Here's what makes this approach different. From general mental health practices, performance mental training is scenario-specific and You're not just trying to feel better generally, you're preparing your mind for specific performance demands. The compound effect of systematic mental training is extraordinary. Over time, you develop what researchers call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe and adjust your mental state in real time. You notice when your attention drifts and bring it back. You recognize emotional patterns that hurt performance and interrupt them. You become the director of your own mental experience rather than its victim. Your action step for the next 30 days: spend 10 minutes daily visualizing successful performance in challenging scenarios specific to your field. Include sensory details, potential obstacles, and your responses to those obstacles. Notice how this mental rehearsal affects your actual performance confidence. Remember, elite performance isn't just about physical preparation, it's about training your mind to be an ally rather than an obstacle under pressure. Chapter 8. Building something bigger than yourself. Drive someone to practice shots they may never take in a game. What motivates preparation that goes far beyond what's required for personal success? The answer lies in understanding that the highest levels of performance come from connecting your excellence to something larger than individual achievement. Most people are motivated primarily by personal gain, recognition, money, career advancement, or social status. While these motivations can drive short-term performance, they rarely sustain the level of preparation required for sustained excellence. Elite performers discover something more powerful: legacy consciousness. Legacy consciousness isn't about being remembered after you're gone. It's about understanding how your current preparation and performance can impact others and contribute to positive change right now. When you connect your daily work to meaningful impact beyond yourself, you access deeper levels of motivation and resilience. Here's the profound insight: when you perform for something bigger than personal success, you paradoxically achieve higher levels of personal success. The reason is psychological. Legacy-driven motivation survives individual setbacks because it's not dependent on your own immediate results. Let me illustrate this with a powerful example. Every time someone shoots a three-pointer from an impossible distance, they're not just attempting a shot, they're proving that smaller, skilled players can succeed at the highest levels. They're inspiring young athletes who've been told they're not big enough or strong enough. They're changing the entire culture of what's considered possible in their sport. This awareness transforms preparation from personal development into cultural impact. Every hour spent practicing isn't just improving individual skills, it's advancing the cause of proving that preparation and skill can overcome physical limitations. The shooting revolution in modern basketball started with one person's commitment to excellence, but its impact has influenced millions. The psychology behind legacy consciousness is fascinating. When your preparation serves purposes beyond personal achievement, you develop what researchers call transcendent motivation that survives disappointment, because it's connected to something large. The transformation happens when you realize that your personal success can be a vehicle for broader positive impact. Your preparation becomes not just about improving yourself, but about proving what's possible for others facing similar challenges or limitations. There's also something called platform consciousness that elite performers develop. They understand that high-level achievement creates influence and visibility that can be used for purposes beyond personal benefit. The question becomes, how can I use this platform responsibly to create positive change? The emotional component is crucial. Legacy consciousness requires genuine care about others' success and development. It can't be performative or manipulative. It has to come from authentic desire to contribute to something meaningful beyond yourself. This mindset also affects how you handle setbacks and criticism. When you're working toward something bigger than personal achievement, individual failures become temporary setbacks rather than identity threats. The larger purpose provides resilience during difficult periods. Legacy consciousness changes your preparation intensity too. When you know that young people are watching and learning from your example, you can't afford to cut corners or settle for good enough. Your work ethic becomes a teaching tool, whether you intend it or not. The ripple effects are measurable. When elite performers operate with legacy consciousness, they often inspire entire generations to pursue excellence in similar ways. The methods, mindset, and standards they demonstrate become templates that others can follow and adapt. Here's where this becomes practical for anyone. You don't need to be famous or operating at the highest levels to develop legacy consciousness. In your workplace, community, or family, your commitment to excellence and systematic preparation can inspire others to raise their own standards. The strategic advantage is that legacy consciousness attracts like-minded people. When you're clearly working towards something meaningful beyond personal gain, you tend to attract others with similar values and work ethics. This creates networks and relationships that enhance everyone's capabilities. Your action step. Identify one way your current pursuit of excellence could positively impact others or contribute to something meaningful beyond personal achievement. Then let this awareness influence your daily preparation and performance. Notice how connecting to larger purpose affects your motivation and resilience. Remember, the greatest achievements happen when personal excellence serves collective advancement, creating value that extends far beyond individual success. Chapter 9. Never stop growing, the evolution imperative here. Is a truth that separates temporary success from sustained excellence. The moment you stop evolving is the moment you start declining. In a world where everyone else is improving, staying the same is actually moving backwards. Most people reach a certain level of competence and then plateau. They get comfortable with their current abilities and focus on maintaining rather than expanding them. But elite performers understand something crucial. Evolution isn't optional if you want sustained excellence, it's mandatory. The breakthrough insight is that evolution doesn't mean abandoning what made you successful. It means building new layers of capability on top of your existing strengths. The best performers never stop being excellent at their core competencies, but they continuously add new dimensions that make those core strengths even more. Impact, TFUL. Think about this. What happens when everyone in your field studies your methods and catches up to your current level? If you've stopped growing, you become average. But if you've been systematically adding new capabilities, you maintain your advantage while others are still learning your old methods. Let me illustrate this with a perfect example. Someone who revolutionized basketball through shooting excellence didn't stop there. They added playmaking, leadership, defensive awareness, and off-ball movement to their repertoire. Each new capability didn't replace their shooting. It made their shooting even more effective by creating new contexts and opportunities. The psychology behind continuous evolution is fascinating. Most people fear that learning new skills will interfere with existing abilities. But research shows the opposite. When you systematically add complementary capabilities, you actually enhance your core strengths through what scientists call skill transfer improvements in one area that enhance performance. In related areas, here's the strategic framework for systematic evolution. First, identify what new capabilities would make your existing strengths more valuable. Don't choose random skills. Choose capabilities that multiply the impact of what you already do well. Second, study how the best performers in other fields approach similar challenges. Cross-pollination of ideas often produces breakthrough innovations. How do great actors prepare differently than great athletes? What can business leaders learn from military strategists? What techniques from music apply to public speaking? Third, experiment with new approaches in low-stakes environments before implementing them in high-pressure situations. Evolution requires safe spaces to practice and refine new capabilities without risking current performance standards. The key is maintaining your excellence baseline while exploring new territories. You don't lower your current standards while learning new skills, you expand your range while preserving your foundation. There's also something called adjacent evolution that elite performers use. Instead of trying to develop completely unrelated skills, They focus on capabilities that are next to their current expertise. This allows for faster learning and more immediate integration with existing abilities. For example, if your strength is analytical thinking, adjacent evolution might involve developing presentation skills to communicate your analysis more effectively. If you excel at individual performance, you might develop coaching abilities to help others improve. Each new capability leverages existing strengths while expanding your overall impact. The timing of evolution is crucial. The best time to start developing new capabilities is when you're performing well in your current areas, not when you're struggling. Evolution from strength is more effective than evolution from desperation. Here's where most people get evolution wrong. They try to change everything at once, or they abandon successful methods to chase the latest trends. Effective evolution is systematic, building new capabilities while maintaining proven strengths. The compound effect of continuous evolution is extraordinary. Over years and decades, performers who consistently add new dimensions to their abilities create increasingly large gaps between themselves and those who plateau at early success. Levels.evolution also provides protection against obsolescence. Industries, sports, and fields constantly change. New technologies emerge, strategies evolve, and what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Continuous evolution ensures you're always adapting to changing conditions rather than being disrupted by them. There's also the psychological benefit of evolution. It prevents boredom and complacency. When you're always learning and growing, excellence remains engaging rather than becoming routine. The challenge of development maintains your motivation and enthusiasm. The practical approach involves dedicating a specific percentage of your preparation time to developing new capabilities. Many elite performers use a 80-20 split to 80% of their time maintaining and refining current strengths. 20% exploring and developing new areas. Your evolution should be guided by strategic thinking, not random experimentation. Ask yourself, what new capabilities would make me significantly more valuable? What skills are becoming more important in my field? What abilities would give me advantages that others don't have? The learning process for new capabilities should mirror the systematic approach you use for existing strengths. Set specific goals, track progress, seek expert. Here's the revolutionary insight. Championship mentality isn't about winning championships. It's about operating at championship level consistently, which makes winning championships an inevitable byproduct rather than an unlikely goal. The breakthrough happens when you realize that excellence is a process, not an outcome. Champions aren't people who win titles. Champions are people who maintain championship standards in their preparation, performance, and character, whether they're winning or losing, whether they're recognized or ignored. Let me illustrate this with a powerful example. During a season where a team won only 15 games due to injuries and other factors, the same preparation routines continued unchanged. Same shooting workouts, same film study, same leadership approach, same commitment to excellence. The external results were terrible, but the championship standards never wavered. Why maintain championship standards when no one expects them and immediate results aren't visible? Because championship mentality understands something crucial. Standards are not situational. The moment you lower your standards because circumstances are difficult, you begin the process of losing your championship edge. The psychology behind this is profound. When you maintain consistent excellence standards, regardless of circumstances, You develop what researchers call intrinsic regulation. Your sense of success comes from meeting your own standards, rather than external validation or comparison to others. This creates incredible psychological advantages. You become immune to the emotional roller coaster that destroys most people's consistency. Bad results don't devastate you because your identity isn't tied to outcomes, it's tied to process excellence. Good results don't make you complacent because you know they came from standards you maintained, not luck or temporary inspiration. Championship mentality also means understanding the difference between standards and expectations. Standards are what you control: your preparation level, your effort, your approach, your character. Expectations are outcomes you hope for but can't directly control: wins, recognition, rewards, others' responses. Champions focus on maintaining standards while holding expectations lightly. This allows them to perform with full commitment while staying emotionally stable regardless of immediate results. Here's the practical framework for developing championship mentality. First, define your championship standards in specific, measurable terms. What does championship preparation look like in your field? What daily behaviors and approaches represent excellence, regardless of circumstances? Second, commit to maintaining these standards for extended periods, regardless of external feedback. Championship mentality is built through consistency over time, not through perfect performance in individual moments. Third, measure yourself against your standards, not against others' performance or recognition. The question isn't, am I better than my competition? The question is, am I meeting my own championship standards today? The transformation happens when you realize that championship standards actually make performance easier, not harder. When excellence is your default approach, you don't waste mental energy deciding how much effort to give or whether to prepare thoroughly. Excellence becomes automatic rather than effortful. Championship mentality also changes your relationship with pressure and opportunity. When you maintain championship standards consistently, high-pressure situations feel familiar rather than foreign. You've been operating at that level already. The stakes are different, but your approach remains the same. There's also something called championship gravity that develops over time. When you consistently operate at championship levels, you naturally attract opportunities, relationships, and resources that match those standards. Excellence creates its own ecosystem of support and advancement. The emotional component is crucial. Championship mentality requires making peace with the fact that you'll often maintain higher standards than those around you. This isn't about superiority, it's about personal integrity and commitment to excellence regardless of others' choices. Championship standards also provide stability during difficult periods. When external circumstances are challenging, your standards give you something to control and focus on. Instead of feeling helpless about things you can't change, you concentrate on maintaining what you can control. Your preparation and approach, the long-term compound effect, is extraordinary. People who maintain championship standards for years and decades create increasingly large advantages over those who have conditional excellence. The consistency creates capabilities and opportunities that occasional/excellence never produces. Championship mentality also means being willing to do ordinary things extraordinarily well, consistently, over long periods. It's not about dramatic gestures or spectacular individual performances. It's about maintaining excellence in daily fundamentals, whether anyone notices or not. Your relationship with improvement changes, too. Instead of seeking dramatic transformations, you focus on small, consistent advances within your championship framework. Evolution happens through sustained excellence. Rather than sporadic intensity, the strategic advantage is that championship mentality makes you anti-fragile. You actually get stronger during difficult periods because your standards provide structure and purpose. When external circumstances are chaotic, here's what championship mentality looks like in practice. You prepare for every meeting as if it's the most important one of your career. You maintain the same work ethic whether your boss is watching or not. You treat practice with the same intensity as performance. You hold yourself to the same standards whether you're feeling motivated or struggling. Your action step. Define 3 specific daily standards that represent championship-level behavior in your field. Commit to maintaining these standards for the next 30 days, regardless of circumstances, mood, or immediate results. Notice how this consistency affects your performance, confidence, and opportunities. Remember, championship mentality isn't about occasionally performing at high levels. It's about making excellence your standard way of operating in every situation. CONCOE. The past 45 minutes, we've explored the systematic approach to peak performance that has created some of the most remarkable achievements in sports history. But these principles extend far beyond basketball courts. They're the foundation for excellence in any arena where performance matters. Let's recap the fundamental insights. Excellence begins with preparation, so thorough that confidence becomes inevitable. Pressure transforms from enemy to fuel when you understand how to harness intensity rather than fight it. Opportunity recognition helps you choose when to commit your full capabilities. Range expansion breaks through artificial limits to create new possibilities. Team elevation multiplies individual excellence into collective achievement. Adversity navigation turns setbacks into acceleration points. Mental training develops your mind as systematically as your skills. Legacy consciousness connects personal excellence to meaningful impact. Continuous evolution ensures sustained relevance and growth. Championship mentality makes excellence your standard operating procedure. The overarching truth is that peak performance isn't about natural talent, perfect conditions, or lucky breaks. It's about developing systematic approaches to preparation, pressure, and performance that make excellence predictable rather than accidental.